Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
This song is dedicated to all heroes and patriots who fall. This song called Innocent Blood, as I would say. In a revolution, some people are weak, while others are strong. Listen to my song.
Listen to my song. Listen to my song.
The weak turn to counter revolution, subversion and destabilization.
Listen to my song. Listen to my song.
Is the strong ones to stand firm and make things right?
True.
Show to the weak why we must unite. The weak, them, they don't know who they fighting for. Moving aimlessly in a senseless war. Murdering their people, innocent along the way. But we are go with them. So listen when I say, in this year time, oh no, I say they preaching war. They really kill them for. But are them tourists and no rain. But are them tourists and no rain. Singing but are them tourists and no rain. But are them tourists and no rain. In a revolution,
Yes, indeed, folks. 38 years ago, a very, I think unfortunate is kind of downplaying. To say it was a very unfortunate accident. It wasn't an accident, and it wasn't just unfortunate. It was a lot more than unfortunate. Once again, Devon, Romain, you were there. Give us a little rundown. 38 years ago, it had people right now who not even 38 years old. They're just hearing about this thing, but they don't know what. Yeah, they know what take place in Grenada and thing. Tell us a bit about what took place in what is now the Queen's Park, well, the area of the Karani James Athletic Stadium.
No,
it would have been more to the cricket stadium
would have
side.
been right where the cricket stadium
Yeah,
is.
it would have been the cricket stadium's end. Yeah, so give us a little rundown of what took place 38, watch out, I'm speaking, you know me already, I say 30, right? But 38 years ago. Nice.
Good morning, Grenada again. And well, I shouldn't say it's nice to be speaking to you on a topic like that, because it's not something, that we really wanted to live through. But again, hey, history has dealt us with that card, and we have to play it. October, June 19th, 1980. 2 minutes after 3 in the afternoon.
So it was an afternoon thing.
Yes, June 19th. The day was usually commemorated by the party, the NGM party. Long before the revolution, it was a day commemorated for either the death of either Jeremiah Richardson or Harold Strawn.
Depot, tell us which one.
Yeah, I can't remember which one of them, right? And that day was, marked as the day to remember them. And on the 19th of June, all right, that's when that incident happened. And so on that day, 1980, The stage was set, military parade, and so we had the masses coming out to, witness that. It's not so much a celebration, but a commemoration, right, of that day itself. And it was only 1 year, just 1 year after the glorious March 13th revolution, and so. And it was, in my view, a good way to show, the appreciation for those who fell even before the revolution, and gave the strength to the leaders of the NGM, and so to continue along that path, and so I was around 14 perhaps.
Now let me ask
Yeah.
first question. What were you doing there in the first place?
Okay.
In what capacity were you at Queen's Park?
Okay. I was still a student of GBSS, right? But I was also an active member of the militia, the People's Militia.
So you were in the militia at that time?
Yes.
What rank?
Well, just
militia member?
Yeah, just a militia member, and so from Tempe.
Militiaman?
Yes. On that day, on that June 19th, I had exams. As a matter of fact, human and social biology and geography on that day in GBSS, right? Myself and Wendell Wilson, and so we did our exams, and then we left perhaps around 1, went to River Road, and so, and with the intention of preparing to go to the rally, and so.
What was the atmosphere like that day?
Well, it was, upbeat, and so, because just
A normal day, it was
normal
looking
working
dreary or any that.
yeah,
Normal day,
working
sunny.
It was sunny and a bit. It started sunny, but then it overcast, and so around after lunch, a little bit. So it was a little bit sort of gloomy, around that time, and so. And persons were mobilizing and organizing to come to Queen's Park, right, to commemorate that special day, and so June 19th, right, and so I was there as first and foremost, as a student of GBSS just finishing the exam, and as an active member of the People's Militia, right, just bent on being there and showing solidarity, and so, and as like most other Grenadians did on that day. And so, and went around 2:45.
Okay, so
Yes.
before you reached there, you headed to the stadium, you and who? I know you said
Yeah,
Wendell.
to the Queen. Myself alone. I left Wendell alone. He's one guy that never liked to be in the
Forefront.
Yes, I'm not a militia, and so.
But he's not a frontish guy.
No, he's not a front guy like me. I always like to be in the thing. You understand? And he always warned me about that. A number of events that myself and him had the experience of being there, but I was the one always in front. And he said, boy, same thing with October 19th. Myself and him again. Just find myself being in the forefront of these things. So I don't know. That's how the Lord has made my way when it comes to these things in Grenada. All right. So so it was myself alone who left River Road. I left his house, and I said, look, hey, I'm going on to the park and see what's going on, and so. And hey, arrived there around 3:15.
But you were there just a witness, or you were in a military capacity?
No, just a witness.
Just a witness,
yes,
right.
But I still had on my GBSS school pants, white shirt, but I had on a green militia jacket over it.
Okay.
All right, so I basically hide the GBSS shirt itself. So my presence there was just at that time, as a militia person, right, showing support and solidarity and so on that day. All right, so that is basically why I was there, and so I was not sold there as yet. So and as I was saying, I arrived there around 2:45, and look at the military parade was assembling and everything like that. The soldiers, the militia who were on parade, the policemen, and so they was on the grounds of the Queen's Park, the old Queen's Park, and so. And I found myself right up at the pavilion, just behind most of the dignitaries.
Now, you're saying behind the pavilion.
Behind.
Now, a lot of the younger folks in Grenada, nobody in secondary school right now, outside us, probably some teachers, not even all the teachers,
some
teachers know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All they know is what we have right now.
Yeah.
That's what they know. So they know what you're talking about.
So I'll explain to them. Okay, just the old Queen's Park pavilion, right? Was located, the building itself was located just at the entrance of the Humbug Bridge at the Queen's Park. When you make a left, right, just as you going down and you see that little building which housed the pump, big pump, and so that pump water for the field, right? Just to the front of there.
So you come over the Humbug Bridge.
You come over the Humbug Bridge and you make a left.
Right.
Right, and immediately left right there, that's where the old pavilion would have started, or was that?
The
right?
main building
the
for
main
Queen's Park
building,
back
yes.
in those days.
Right, the main building, and you had what you call this commentary box of cricket and football, and so right around that area, the gate entrance was right there. There was a big tree, what you call it, a shack tree, and those long brung, the tree that grew the long brung thing, kokioko tree. There was a big tree right at the front there, located. So so the pavilion was exactly a right around where the new stadium building is. The only thing, it was smaller, right? And the entrance still remained the same. And so although there were other entrances, and so to the side, when you go in towards the gravel and concrete, and so where you have just around the entrance, or even before, right where you have the scoreboard, and so there was an entrance there, and so on. It was more galvanized. So that was the location of the old pavilion itself at Queen's Park. All right, and so for those of you who didn't have the opportunity to know it, and so just around there. So found myself sitting right behind the dignitaries and so leaders of the revolution, about 3-4 stairs or seats above them, looking down them, perhaps about 10-15 feet away from them, because that pavilion was not big but small. The capacity was a couple hundred, on both sides, and so on. The parade was going on, and so it was about to end, the military parade, and so, and Kakadimo Grant, God bless his soul, and so took the mic. He was basically the one who was how you call that person?
Chairman.
Chairman, but he was the man to basically whip up
Hype man.
the hype man. We
Right.
call him the hype man. You see, like what they call him, short leg and them.
Yeah.
Short leg come on the stage. Right. That was Kakadimo, was that type of person. He will energize and keep the crowd, right, the masses in political rallies, and so upbeat with his whole style of delivering different messages and everything. And people were captivated, and so by most of the time when you hear Kakadimo on thing, you want to listen to him, because he's somebody, he will tell you as it is, but he will tell you in some jokey way. He will make you laugh. He will never be serious, but he will make you laugh. But he was somebody, that was like Ali Gill is somebody like him, that will get up there and will, whip up the support and make people upbeat, and so Kakadimo took the mic and was addressing the crowd, and so introduction and everything on that day. And just around 2-3 minutes to 3 o'clock on that afternoon, right, as the military parade, they were still there, the rain started drizzling, right, slightly, and so, and persons were moving away from the outside and getting underneath the pavilion for shelter.
The same pavilion where the leadership was.
Yes, where the leadership was. And so, Kakadimo had the mic, and so speaking. And then there was a short break at 3 o'clock for basically the gun salute, right? For the fallen, for the commemoration on that day. And
Which was Butler's birthday.
Which was also...
That's what somebody sent a message to say it was Butler's birthday.
Butler's birthday. Right? So, okay, good. And there was what you call 3 loud explosions set off by the soldiers, TNT, and so, to commemorate that day. Or you call that like a gun salute. right? The first one, boom. And the second one, boom. And everybody was upbeat because, excitement and everything. The third one, boom. And so on.
That was gun salute as in a cannon firing off?
Well, it was TNT that was placed at a particular area. TNT set to explode, right? Control explosion, basically, right? To signal, the commemoration of that day, 3 o'clock on that day, And so, the third one went off and everybody was, and was silent because no one expected a fourth. Right, and at about 2 minutes after 3 on the 19th of June, the fourth explosion took place. Boom! But it was it was an explosion that the people around could have felt, right? The earth move and the different in vibration, and then the whole bellow of smoke just come out from underneath the pavilion, where the leadership, right beneath where the leadership was sitting down, on the upstairs of the pavilion was a concrete platform, right, where the dignitaries and so usually sit down for all different occasions. The leadership, Morris Bishop and Bernard Code, Hudson Austin, Unison Whiteman, the entire leadership of the revolution, military and political leader, was sitting right there. And that explosion went up. Boom! And so on. Then you could have seen the bellow of smoke coming out from underneath. And so on. Still persons didn't understand what was going on. Still when we heard the screaming from persons and people start running out from underneath that building because a lot of persons went underneath there to shelter the rain. And so, and how it exploded, and so just have people running helter-skelter and everything like that. And that is when it was drawn to the attention of the security forces that something, additional explosion went on and persons were hurt.
Okay, so explosion has gone. Mr. Technical Man, some people complaining that the live stick, Mr. Technical Man, do your thing. Yeah, so you've had the explosion. People start to run. People start to scream.
In that June 19th activity, and so.
Okay, so the explosion has taken place. People are running. People are screaming. First thing, what takes place with the leadership of the country at that point in time? The leadership is there. Yes. What takes place with the leadership?
Yes. When the explosion went off, as I said, Kakadimo was still on the mic, and he was basically, he panicked. He was in a panic mood, but still kept speaking. Ironically, still kept speaking, and he was like, realizing that something went wrong, he started to appeal for calm, and so for people to be careful and be calm and get away from around the area, because remember, he was standing right above that explosion, him and the entire leadership.
So he would have basically felt it full blast.
He would have felt it.
Well, not full blast because it would have thrown him.
Dick, man, the concrete and all cracked. That big slab of concrete was about 8 or 10 inches thick, perhaps more, basically cracked.
Okay.
And so.
So the leadership is there. Kakadimo is still talking. What is he saying on the platform at that time?
Well, he was appealing to persons to be calm and so on and try to be safe. Words to that effect and everything like that.
Bomb went off and you telling me be calm?
Yeah, because I
hear you.
Not exactly knowing what it was at that time, right? And knowing that people were panicking and running, and so he asked people to be calm and and whatever. At that point in time, the military forces the security forces realizing that it was not one of the control explosion, but an additional explosion, they basically surrounded the entire leadership, Morris Bishop, Bernard Code, every one of them. And you could have heard General Austin calling out to the security men. And so, get the leadership and everybody out of here, because at one point in time, I mean, you would have seen the security men surrounding them, but they were not moving. Right? So he, as a general now, the chief of the army at that point in time, had to, I mean, and his voice was forceful. Where I was standing right about, perhaps about 5-10 meters away from him, you could have hear him forcefully, get the leadership out of here. And so get Morris Bishop and them out of here. And then you see all of a sudden, you see the Fiat cars, because they had a fleet of Fiat cars, and so that we got from the Soviet Union, and so, or East Germany, just arrived. And Shalon, it was the first time I seen about 8 or 9 persons get into a 5-seater car. Prime Minister Morris Bishop, the driver, and about 7 other security personnel in that vehicle. Who he was in the middle, and you could not have seen him.
Who was some of the security going with him? You know any other guys? You can point out any other guys?
I'm not too sure. It's possible that Max was there. It's possible. Eric George, a number of persons. A guy called Rabs, Lala. These guys.
I know Rabs from Belmont.
Yeah, Lala. And these guys were, were all part of the security apparatus at that time, all the time. So probably most of these guys were there. A number of them that I can't, remember their names, and so, and so they were there, and they were wisp and trying to get the leadership, the entire leadership, away, and so. Now, still for me, not realizing what went on, if it was a bomb or control explosion, but you will see all the smoke, people running, and so it still went about a minute or so, knowing me, left from where I was and went to the bottom of the ground. That is when I realized that it was an explosion, a bomb, and so because the sight, Sheldon, it was not bearable, but you could have seen. Well, I saw 4 persons lying on the ground, right there, right, and all were women. All were women, and
so they would have been right up to the front.
They would have been right around the bomb underneath, because based on information that I gathered after, the bomb was placed underneath a slab of concrete. When you make those concrete benches and so.
Yeah.
Right. The bomb was placed beneath that concrete bench. Right, and so.
Platform.
Right, the platform right beneath the leadership there, with the intention when it explode, it will have bring down the entire leadership and kill them. Right, every one of them. Right, could have lost their life on that day, and so but what prevented that though? The concrete itself and the persons who were around where that bomb was prevented the force of that bomb from bringing down the concrete slab.
So the force didn't magnify as it ought to. It went outwards instead of pushing upwards.
Instead of pushing upwards. So it went outwards. And so on. When it went outwards, that is where the casualties and everything there.
You saw 4 persons on the ground.
4 persons.
How many other persons injured?
There was a number of other persons injured. There was a gentleman from Birch Grove, a young man, lost his arm.
Well, 1 minute, Mr. Technical Man. Check your live. Keep eye on the live, please. It gone again. Yeah.
Yeah. A young man I saw who lost his arm. Saw him there. He was on the ground, and right, there were other persons around there with blood all over their face, and so. But what basically caught my eyes, and so, was the women on the ground. Bernadette, Lauren and Lorraine, they were the Bailey sisters, and so, and there was someone else there, and it was not a good sight. It was not a good sight, and so to see. You saw one of the ladies who lost their leg. You had another one who lost her whole back, and so and standing right over her, you could have seen all her internal parts like the intestines. I mean, I have to say it, and it's raw, but that's how it is. That's part of our history. And so, it was not a good sight, but seeing it alone was something that was, wasn't the best of things. But anyhow, these persons were running helter skelter all over the place, and same General Austin and Vincent Noel, former trade union leader and member of the leadership of the revolution. And so both of them, and Vincent Noel had a orange Fiat car. I think the number was 1695. Orange Fiat car. He drove his car right there close by, and myself, General Austin, Vincent Noel, and there were two other gentlemen. We didn't wait. I mean, I was only 13, 14 years around that time, and we were basically holding these women and put them, especially the young lady, I think it was a nurse, right, from somewhere up at Bylands or somewhere in St. Andrews, and so that died. And so she was the one that I think lost her entire back, and so, and we had to hold them, right, feet and head, and so, and place her and one of the other girls inside of that vehicle, and one of the soldiers drove away with the car one time. Then another car came, and we had the other persons put into the vehicle and, spread away, and so it was not a good scene. It was not. It was gruesome to see, your fellow Grenadians and so, and women and that on the ground, and so, bleeding to death, and persons were screaming and bawling. It was not a good sight. It was a day, in Grenada when, that the nation stood still when that happened.
So the leadership has been rushed out.
Yes.
You would have been part of the one of the persons that were putting people into the car.
Into the vehicle.
What happened immediately after that? Did you accompany the vehicle up to the hospital?
No.
Did you stay down there?
Yeah, I stayed down there. Right. Still trying to assist, because there were persons with minor injuries and so, head wound and so, and there were a couple of nurses, right, and so that came around and were putting people in a particular area, and so, and attending to them bruises and so, head wound and everything like that. So I was told around there until it basically sort of, died down. Persons were leaving because everybody was trying to get out of the Queen's Park, Some people were thinking that something else would have happened. And so, but as part, so young and sort of security conscious, and so I stood around trying to assist and everything, and then perhaps about 3/4 of an hour after, in my bloody clothes, and so GBSS clothes and the army jacket, and so I left there and went on the outside of the bridge. And that was the first time I basically catch myself and realize the magnitude of what went on that June 19th.
Somebody's asking if it's Fiat or Lada cars.
Fiat, Lada, yes, Lada. My mistake. But they were the same. It's Lada cars. They were from the east.
Yeah, you still see them in Cuba. You see a lot of them in Cuba.
The Fiat were from Italy, I think. Yeah. But the Ladas, that is what it was. My bet. But they the same shape and size and everything. They look alike. The European type of thing. Because we had a number of them, and so, and that was used to basically whisk away the leadership and everything like that.
All right, folks, we're going to open the phone lines because we know some of you have been trying to call. We just wanted to get the first part of the story out because we have to understand that there are many, many, many persons here in Grenada who know absolutely nothing about
that,
what
yes.
would have taken place that day.
Morning,
Morning.
and DEVON.
Good morning, Cami.
I think on them Radical wasn't the Cubans.
Well, it was from.
They had the Cubans used to use some of them.
Yes,
But
definitely.
that was a day, thank God for life still.
Thank God for life,
Yeah, some
Cami.
of us could still, we could still give a testimony of what went on in Grenada. That, well, I was on that step, trembling as a leaf.
Yep.
Because the exact how he talk about how the park was with the grandstand was board, We had board thing.
Yeah, bleachers
Ball.
and everything like that, yeah.
And was Bishop really going for,
Yeah, the
That
entire
man had
leadership.
his khaki.
Yeah,
I seen
Cammy.
him in the khaki pants and Lord God,
Yes, Cammy, you're right.
boy, I went under a step. I tell you the boat step they had. The bleachers. And I stayed there, you know. And exact what you're talking about. The little girl from the road, she lost her leg.
Yeah, Bailey.
The little girl from the road lost her leg.
And the other sister died.
I went under the bleachers then and sit down there trimming and pee myself. I could never forget, you know.
Yeah. And if you remember, the school in Happy Hill
boy.
was named after
Yes.
one of the Bailey girls, Bernadette Bailey.
They had a green car and I think it was a orange or yellow.
Yes, I saw that yellowish.
I got a yellowish one, you know, right?
Yeah.
I could never forget these things because I always used to be around. And I then when you're talking about Kakadimo had a powerful voice.
Yes, man.
When that man go on a stage to talk, Kakadimo he had a powerful voice.
Yes. You know.
Yes, boy.
And hey, and Honorable Peter David would have been around that
But
time too.
history.
Yeah, history.
I think he had one of them, somebody from Granoy had lost. They get damaged there too. And the boy from Bodgrove, he get his hand.
The hand.
I have a whole book of all of them, you know. Somebody sent me a book from America because we was together there.
Yeah.
And that person sent me a book of the people that died. You know who was one of the security house bishop, I think? Nigga, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie, nigga.
Charlie, we used
Yeah.
to call him nigga.
Yeah.
That was a security.
Every
from
George.
Williamson Road.
Every
And I
George
think
and
Sayo.
yeah.
I don't know if Sayo was there that day. Mr. Louisan. Morning,
Yep.
Mr. Louisan, I stand.
Yep.
This guy was a soldier. One of them days.
Yep.
I remember all. Thank God for life, God.
Thank God for life,
The guy could have
Cammy.
died a long time ago.
Yeah, we all could have.
I could have died a long time ago. All where these people was, I used to be there.
All right, my
You
dear.
talk right, you're right, you is right.
All right, my
You is
dear.
right.
Have a wonderful day,
You is
Cammy.
right.
Okay, my dear.
Lord Jesus, have mercy on us in Grenada.
Yeah, and you know,
One person has messaged me to say you were not wrong about the Fiat though, because Bernard Cord had a Fiat. He had a Fiat, so you're not wrong. Some were Fiat, some were
Some were
ladders.
ladders,
Yeah, so that Bernard had a Fiat at that
know.
point in time. Folks, if you were there, you could call,
Yeah, you could call and share if you-
7377, and we know a lot of you in the US, so give them the US and Canada number.
347-329-3101. Give us a call and let's share that experience. Let us help educate our young ones who are not privileged and who do not know of incidents like these. Don't be afraid. You know? Good morning and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Devon. Good morning, Sheldon.
Morning, my friend.
Morning.
Sheldon, this is a day to remember. I remember I was 5 or 6 months after that, before I went in the army, and I was in Camboni. And I remember that Sunday, in Camboni, and we got the news that a bomb gone off in Queen's Park. Brother Sheldon, it was a day that every one of us in Camboni, we feel so sad. So sad. And I remember that after that, we was handed weapon to go and guard the radio station in Morning Rouge.
Yep.
And Brother Sheldon, I remember that day, we stay outside guarding the radio station for about 6 hours, heavy rain. Boots wet, clothes and wet. And Brother Sheldon, I want to say, this is a day that we can never forget. It was a very, very sad day. Alright? And I do believe this is a day that we should remember, alright, of what happened in Grenada. Not a good day, but a very sad day. Alright? I want to say to the people that died, yes, it's a sad day, but the people who do it, because nobody knows that, but they accuse people, but we don't know. Alright? But yet, the people who did it, they did it just to get rid of the leadership of the government at the time.
Yep.
But I want to say, as Brother Sheldon give a good account of himself, of exactly what happened at that day. Brother Devon and Sheldon, you all are wonderful.
Yes, my friend.
God bless you.
All right, take care. And you know, ironically, that was just the first half of that evening, though. right? Because a lot of persons would have known who was wrong, would have known. Right after that transpired another violent incident again in St. Paul's, Mount Airy to be exact, where a gentleman by the name of Strawn Philip, who was also a military person, part of one of the persons who led the March 13th revolution, was a soldier who led the attack on the barracks, and so was part, and so he lost his life, and so in a shootout with the security forces.
Some people say he was murdered.
Some people say he was murdered.
Some people say that a particular soldier emptied a AK clip on him while he fallen out of the house.
Well, you see, a lot of
that a shootout took place.
Yeah, a lot of persons made all sorts of thing, and up to this point in time, I have not been able to zero in on what really happened on that day. I mean, up at Mount Airy. All we knew is that a shootout took place, and with soldiers and militia, with the gentleman, I think, and after that we were told that he was part of either planning or part of the whole thing about that. So there's a lot of things that that we could talk about, but let's stick on the day itself, on the actual event, the June 19th event at Queen's Park. It was a day that most Grenadians were terrified, right? I mean, first time experiencing such chaos, and so in one place, your entire leadership, right, could have died instantly together with hundreds of Grenadians if that building had fell. And so later on, we got to realize that the bomb was placed there by a young lady. And we'll talk of that. Good morning and welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my friend.
And how are you?
Not too bad.
Is it Brother Sheldon?
Yes, it's the program. Yes, you are live on the program.
Brother Sheldon, I hardly could hear you, but can you hear me?
We're hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. I'm calling from Mount Morris, right?
Yes.
And I wasn't here for nothing you could think about, because I roam the sea. The point I want to make is it's very nice and interesting to hear all these things, but I hope I'm not upsetting you by letting you know something different this morning. Can I?
What?
If it's around October 19th, let's focus on that. June 19th. Let's focus on that today. Another issue we'll raise another day. But today, with 12 minutes remaining, we want to specifically stick to this issue.
Then I'll call on another day then.
No problem, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheldon, and you have a nice day.
Okay,
thank you
my
so
friend.
very much.
Thanks for understanding.
Keep moving.
All right, thanks.
All right, boss.
Yeah, we want to kind of stick on this particular issue today. You could bring up that one tomorrow or so.
So good morning, Junior George.
Yeah. Somebody's saying that on that day, Strawn Philip died a useless death. He had his own armory and fired on soldiers who were going there to search. So, well, that's another story. Yeah. Maybe the people who were there could talk about. Well, the people who were they're talking about how.
Well, yeah, but what I know of there is that a party of soldiers, right after about perhaps an hour and a half after the incident, a party of soldiers was sent directly to Strawn Philip based on the information that they had gathered.
Okay.
Right? Good morning and welcome. Hello?
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Listen, I just want to ask one question,
Sure.
and I hope I'm not being negative.
Oh, sure.
Why did they change the name of the school, Happy Hill Secondary School, to Bernadette Beatty School? My reason for asking that is, I think I understand she was a pupil of that school. But in my mind, the incident did not take place in her school, and there were other people who died. No, I don't understand, and I'm trying to understand. No negative.
No problem. Sure. Yeah, it's a valid question.
Yeah, I could explain.
The thing is, after the revolution, most of the places that were named by the revolution, the names were changed back. So you had Fort Rupert back to
Fort George.
Fort George and so on.
And these schools, there were two schools that were in particular, well, three, were junior secondary schools. They were built by during the Sir Eric Gary era, and the revolution basically opened them. It was and it was named the school in Hapiel was named Bernadette Bailey Secondary School after Bernadette Bailey, who died on that day, and she was a student. The Boca one, I think it was Harold Strawn, right? And the one in Grenville, I think it was Jeremiah Richardson. Three of them were named after heroes of the revolution. Okay. Good morning and welcome.
Morning, Senator Sheldon.
Morning.
Senator, allow me to say a very good morning to Dr. Romain.
Good morning, Doc.
Doc, my question to you, one of the questions, opening question.
Sure.
You never had an inclination for the medical field, no?
No.
Okay. No, it's very enlightening to hear of a 14-year-old who was able to stomach that level of human damage. Yeah? So, and that's in that context. I volunteer the statements I make this morning. It's very encouraging to hear how you acted at that point in time.
Yeah.
I recall, I think I'm 2 years or so older than yourself.
Yeah.
And I also think I'm personality kind of between yourself and Brother Weezo. You know, I'm there when I need to be.
Yes.
You understand? You know, I was at home that morning, very that afternoon, very interesting day. And although I questioned your number, I vaguely recalled hearing, because Free Grenada was carrying that thing live.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you know, persons were taking it in, and I recall it being described as a mammoth crowd. And indeed, in those times in those early days, indeed, the activities of the revolution were massively supported.
Huge, yeah.
Be that as is me, it was indeed shattering to the afternoon proceeding to hear, because from where I am, you know where I am right now, to hear that song that come over Cemetery Hill, you know it was something massive. The explosion was a powerful one. And you know, they hear the announcers on Free Grenada calling to people, you know, please, who could, the blood donors, who can go to the hospital, there will be need for such, you know, and encouraging people to stay away and allow the relevant authorities to address the injured, and so it was quite a lot of people. And even in my home side, to see the traffic, to see the persons coming from, it was disappointing to know that an activity like that did not was I would say sabotage in that way.
Yeah.
You understand? Because that sort of activity was something unheard of in our Grenada to that point in time. But as with all things, it occurred. One other example I gave, I recalled, Brother Dev, what year was that again?
1980.
1980.
38 years to the day.
Okay, so that was 1 year before I left
Yes, and I was
Grenada to go
to study.
Cuba.
And I was about to ask you if that perhaps propelled you or encouraged you to enter the doctor field.
Very good, very good, very good question. I think, it was always in me, I was always fascinated with the human brain, Although initially, I will tell you, I wanted to go Cuba as to do piloting for the army, Grenada. I wanted to be an army. The military, I always been attracted to the military as well. But after I hear of the requirements for the piloting in terms of more the physical, I sort of
in that.
Because I did see myself to more as a research person, quiet, put me in a room, give me a task, I'll investigate, I can probe, you understand me?
Yeah.
So I saw the mind, the brain as a territory where indeed, the brain, the heart. But I reached Cuba 1981. Started and thing. And we had medic, who is Dr. Frederick today, pediatrician. And he was, in his time, before going to Cuba, he worked in the PRA as an army medic. I think that's where part of his name comes from. They call him medic, as in medico, and he had one of his army friends. It was the first time I met and knew Tan Bartholomew. He was receiving orthopedic treatment at an orthopedic hospital in La Lisa, in Cuba. First time I went there, and it's in going there, I was able to see the young ladies who were affected by that bomb blast.
Yeah.
I met them for the first time, and visiting Tan Bartholomew with Dr. Frederick and, of all persons, Dr. Dragon, who today is indeed an orthopedic surgeon. You understand me? I vaguely recall Brother Tan asking us if we would like to be orthopedic surgeons. And if I'm not mistaken, I do think Dr. Jagan did say yes, he's interested. I was not interested. I mentioned my area, my focus already. But as I recall that day, on June 19, Tubal Uriah's Butler's birthday, wasn't that also declared Heroes Day?
Heroes Day also.
Heroes Day during
Yes.
the revolution.
Yes.
During the time of the revolution. So a day like today was referred to as Heroes. Grenada's Heroes Day. We have quite a few names that were mentioned, but it was in honor of
these heroes.
Tubal Uriah's Butler.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doc.
All right, Doc.
All right. Yeah, roughly we have 2 minutes remaining.
Heroes Day. That was exactly the day. All right, Heroes Day. And so it's a combination of different leaders, heroes that passed through and contributed towards the revolution. All right, and so on. Through our boss Butler's birthday, you have Jeremiah Richardson, Strawn, and a number of other persons, and so who basically, and so that day in particular, I mean, that event on that day is not a good sight for us as young Grenadians, having to, and the revolution was young, and so on. It was not something that, most people could have stomached. But surprisingly, the leadership of the country bounced back with energy, and so to take control of the situation. Good morning and welcome. Hello?
Hey, Dr. Devon. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, Sherlon.
Morning.
Devon,
yes, sir.
as we would say, is the waywardness in us that Like you put us in certain places, right?
Good morning, Mr. Victor Ashby.
And we have to. I must say, I don't know if you remember, but I would say this. It is the partaking of the cardiac core.
Yeah.
In GBSS that gave you that initiative to always to run to help.
Yeah.
In the event of that day, June 19th.
First instance.
Where I wasn't close to. I was way out on the bleacher side. I was off on the bleacher side. Again, in my school uniform, wearing a blue and white Adidas tracksuit top over my school shirt. That's what I had on over my school shirt. Yeah. But after all of that subsided, and I went home, while the shooting was taking place up in St. Paul, I was getting a backside wash. My father cut my tail.
What you doing long day?
Yeah.
What you doing in the
boy. While the gunshot of them going off in my face, I get a beating. I was precisely told, when do not go in Queen's Park. You know?
Your father was working right there, right on the next side.
Yeah, in Grand Lake, and he did not eat because every day after school we used to, we'd go and meet him in Queen's Park. But that day he didn't want us in Queen's Park, so he told us just go on home, go straight home, take a bus and go home. I didn't go home. I went in Queen's Park.
You're playing man.
Myself, Neil Smith, Colvin George, and Ernest Lett.
Yeah.
I remember walking with Ernest Lett, and we all walked over to Queen's Park. And but it's a sad day in our history, but it's a part of our history that we cannot forget. Never forget. And once again, thanks for being the memory of a day like that, for the folks that doesn't know, for bringing back days like that and moments like that in our history for the young people that and even adults, there's a lot of
who knows
adults
nothing about it,
doesn't have that part of the history of Grenada.
It's always, with me, it's always a pleasure and a duty of me to continue to inform persons of part of our history a lot of us don't know about. And I'll be proud to continue doing that every day of my life. And so. All right, my friend. Well, you take good care.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Good one.
All right.
So, yes, Shalon, June 19th, 1980 was a day then that Grenada stood still for at least 1 hour, in my view. Between 2 minutes to 3 and 4 o'clock on that day, Grenada was dark, literally dark and just...
You think June 19th was a signal to what came after on October 19th? Do you think it was like a signal of things to come in the future? You think it affected what took place with the revolution? Now, in hindsight, at that time you were 13, 14 years old. Now, looking back in hindsight, do you think that was a turning point in the revolution, how the revolution started articulating its position as a small revolutionary nation and the challenges that it was facing, even to the point of the lives of the leadership being in danger? Do you think that changed from that point? It changed a lot of how the revolution began to operate, even within the context of Grenada itself and regionally, etc.
It did. It did, and I'll tell you why. Just a couple of months before that, our good friend Kennedy Budlal was one of the casualties. He was also a soldier, a lieutenant, and a member of the army, and so. But he was a casualty, right, of the revolution. In that he was arrested and put in jail. So, June 19th, he was in prison.
Okay.
Right at that time. Now, the events that made him and others being put in prison led to June 19th, 1980. I'll tell you that. There were a number of persons that, quote unquote, the revolution called counter-revolutionaries, destabilizers, and everything like that. And based on the information that was gathered after, right, about the bomb and everything like that, right, it was put together that bomb was set by a group of persons who was revolutionaries, but they became anti-revolutionaries based on the Kennedy Budlal arrest, some of his brothers and other members of the Montreal, Tivoli, Riverside areas and them areas who were arrested and called counter-revolutionaries, right? So a number of persons who were also soldiers basically turned against the system and decided to do something about it, right? I mean, it was not wise to come up against the state like that, but they felt that, look, we were part of this entire thing and we were dealt with a bad hand. And around that, so in other words, so to say, Sheldon, that, look, June 19th was as a result of a split or disagreements between members of the revolutionary organization, right? And so that led to that. And so because the bomb was placed by in the Queen's Park by a young lady, came in with the bomb and placed it there, right? It was proven that it was her, and the persons who were associated with her was also identified. A number of them was arrested.
Whatever happened to that young lady, if you know?
But she's still in St. Patrick's, and so she went away. Well, as a matter of fact, right after she was arrested, right, and so she was kept in Camp Boney most of the time and became a soldier. Most of the time,
she became a soldier
after that.
After
right?
she did that, she became a soldier.
A lot of and that's a story that
Grenada's history is confusing, folks. I know those of you on City Sound, if they haven't already left, they may be leaving in a little while. I think me and Devon will continue for a while still on 89.5. Yeah, we will continue to talk on 89.5 on the other station.
So stay with us.
We know 97 might go, but we on 89.5 still.
And that young lady was accused and ultimately basically confessed to placing the bomb there. She was still arrested and so detained for a while, questioned and she gave up some of the persons who that the revolution, the leadership realized were involved or planning to liquidate there.
So it seems as though she was an unwilling participant, or she was duped, or she knew what she was doing.
I think she was duped. She was close to most of these guys and so, but I don't think she was really, she wanted to do what she did.
So she was sort of duped into it.
Yes, you know, for whatever reason and so. And they kept her. They not in prison per se, but in the soldiers' quarters most of the times in Camp Boney. That was the camp located close to BBC quarantine point. And so she was there. And
about 2 soldiers from Camp Boney keep messaging me. One was not at the location, but he was organizing for the men at the location.
Yes, you know, and that was a elite unit too, and so she gave up a number of the persons. And right after that, though, the bombing, then you had the Strawn Philip killing on that same day. Then after that, you had a number of persons who were arrested and detained. And that comes back to the question if that changed the whole modus operandi of the revolution, the direction.
I would think that it became more protective of the revolution and itself. And as such, it would have done things that otherwise, without June 19th, it would not have done. That it would have become more protective of itself, understanding that these are not people that are just talking out against the revolution. But these guys actually trying to kill you.
Kill the leadership. And I mean, the revolution after that time became, well, I wouldn't say that brutal, but serious and no nonsense mood. And so, because a number of
calls coming in. Let's take this one.
Yes, good morning and welcome. Yes, my brother.
Yeah, quite quick. The young lady that Devon talking about.
Don't call her name, eh? Don't call her name.
Don't call her name. She was in our camping too.
Yeah, that's where she was placed.
Yes, Camp was camping in at the time.
Yeah,
she was. I know the young lady very good.
All right, my friend.
Okay, my dear.
Yeah, and a number of
another Camp Boney soldier.
Yeah, a number of persons were arrested right after that. They had a purge. Rose Hill, Mount Rich, Tivoli, Poultry, a number of quote-unquote anti-revolutionaries. And so, I mean...
Those were areas that were predominantly Gary strong areas or something, so they were strong areas. They were against the revolution?
Well, not really against. They became against the revolution because of a number of events. The Kennedy Budlal issue. right? The Reverend Twine estate is sued with Kennedy Budlal and his brothers, Buck Budlal, Russell Budlal, all these guys. So it was a chain of events that led right around the time when Kennedy Budlal was arrested, and a number of other leaders were picked up, and after that, it was a chain of events that led right up to October 1983. And I think that around that time was the beginning of the split of the forces of the revolution, where you find a number of persons break ranks with the revolution and became revolutionaries who were called counters, and a lot of them were arrested, put in prison, and were freed till after the October 19th invasion of the October 25th invasion of the United States forces, so definitely the June 19th event basically propelled or give gas or energy to what went on, in my view, right? October 1983, because the leadership of the entire revolution split.
The natural reaction to a near-death experience for some persons, if they perceive that the threat is still there, is to protect yourself.
Definitely, and that's what.
So you're going to ramp up your militarism, you're going to ramp up your security, and you're going to basically, quote-unquote, take care of any of the threats, immediate or perceived, that are around you.
Yeah. And in my view, at some point in time, the armed forces or the security forces definitely went overboard in some persons. Because there are a number of persons who were innocently picked up. I'm not afraid to say that. We know that. That's a part of our history. They were picked up, but they were guilty by association. Put it that way. They may not have been in the act, but because they were friends to persons who were involved in that counter-revolutionary mode, and so they were picked up and detained or being watched, and so, right, and that sort of thing. So that chain reaction after, just before the June 19th and right up to October 1983, and so you found that the leadership, the core of the revolution, basically split. You had the majority of the personal leadership stood together, and then you had a certain faction who were basically arrested, who fled the country, and so persons who were involved, and so it was not, it was not really a good thing. That, in my view, signaled real trouble for the revolution, because a number of things happened, right? I mean, brutal murders took place.
Folks,
right
you can
after.
still call, You can still call. I think 97.5 is, and we thank them so very much. They're still on with us. We know usually they have another program starting about now. So we're gonna wrap in the next couple minutes or so. But Devon, definitely, I think a lot of people may look at it as just the bomb blast, as they call it, bomb blast,
it's not just
and say it's not just a bomb blast, but it is the after effects, the shock waves of the bomb blast on the entire revolutionary process, which led to what culminated on October the 19th.
Because
I'm speaking as somebody that watching all of this from
outside,
outside, and years after, nothing to do with it at all. So I'm looking at it with different eyes.
Yeah. Because what you find right after that October, the June 19th bomb blast, the military itself, right, was what the word I should put, was more mechanized. They were given more equipments, more soldiers went to train. We were preparing, we were more equipped, better trained, and preparing for activities, related activities, because that would affect the revolution.
It is not in Grenadians' nature to, try to blow up each other. That was not something that Grenadians were accustomed to, that a bomb could have been constructed in the first place. But in the second place, to be placed in a position to cause death and injury to others. It's a very un-Grenadian something. So therefore, you had to take very un-Grenadian measures to try and protect not only yourself, but the revolution and the population at the point in time.
Exactly.
Which is why we saw certain things happening. That's when they started to see BTR running in Grenada.
Yes, well, the BTR and so came in like about 2 years ago. But the training in preparation to bring in these things took place right after June 19, 1980, leading up to 81. Because as most persons who are in Grenada will know, right after that June 19, a number of other things, a lot of persons died after that. There was one gentleman who had a bomb in his hand, a guy they call his Batai. And was attempting to place that bomb underneath a bridge, and he was a casualty of his own making, And so there was an incident again in St. Patrick's where the attack on the militia barracks, where militia was shot, and so by Doc and other guys. And then finally where Doc and Ayub and those guys, they were accused of basically shooting the Volkswagen vehicle in planes and the roundabout that killed the Stanislaus and Courtney guys. Right, 4 or 5 of them that were killed.
I'm hearing various stories about that particular one, and we're going to deal with that one on a separate program.
We will deal with that one. Yes, we will deal with that one.
I'm hearing several stories about that particular incident. It kind of varies.
A lot of some people are, and I could say it. Some people are saying that it was set up by the soldiers to think it was a mistake and what. But there are persons who know exactly what went on, and I will definitely seek. I have not. That's one of the incidents that happened during the revolution. I have not basically go out to find or get the true and relevant information as to what went on. But a chain of events went after that, and rightly so. When a government will have almost lost, people have lost its entire leadership to a single bomb, right? And so then measures had to be taken to secure its people, the government, everything. And so a number of things took place.
You have also affected the psyche of the nation.
Definitely.
People wouldn't feel as comfortable coming out to large mass gatherings and so on again. And in fact, I think it took several years before Grenadians felt comfortable coming back out in large gatherings. Because
not exactly.
What I would say is that you had that in 1980, and then October 19, you had that in 1983. And while Grenadians may have come out to the odd political meeting and that kind of thing, there's still some Grenadians that illustrate they didn't like crowding.
They never go. There are persons.
They will never go to another big gathering of people again.
There are persons after June 19 never go back in a rally or even big gatherings. They may go now, right? Because of the fear of these things. So again, I must come back to your question. That in itself was a continuation of the demise, right? June 19th of the Grenada Revolution that led right up to October 19, when you see the continued split within the leadership.
The survivors. We have Jackie Bailey. Many persons may not know Jackie, but Jackie is a survivor. I don't consider her to be a victim. I consider her to be a survivor.
Yeah.
Many people saying Jackie was a victim. Jackie's not a victim. She's a survivor of that activity, and she's more than a survivor. She's a accredited videographer, video editor. She's worked with the Grenada Broadcasting Network for many years. Before it was GBN, Jackie was there.
Yeah, she was there,
and has been there a long time.
She and
very accomplished in her art.
Man.
She's very accomplished in her art. And she's a survivor. If you meet Jackie, that sunny disposition. And every time I meet her, she always making some kind of joke. She must get me to laugh.
She's a survivor.
Every
time I see her, I remember that day when we had to place them, all of them, in those vehicles and get them away. And so it's times, you just bring that sort of sadness to you, because as a young person experiencing things like that and just being part of it, not an easy thing. Not much people could stomach it and remember these things. But
and the young were the first casualties. That's the thing. We have a caller.
Good morning and welcome. Good afternoon.
Evening, brothers. Sheldon, you just touched on something that I've been trying to raise. You mentioned the 19 June, October incident. There's been a couple of other incidents in our history. It sounds like we're traumatized. How do you give therapy to a whole entire country of people that have been traumatized, that I'm pretty certain have not received any therapeutic treatment for those issues? How do we treat that? Because if you look around our society, one can argue that we're behaving from a traumatic standpoint in terms of a lot of the things we do and the decisions we make. So how do we get our people to be more confident, to be more assertive when it comes to things that are making decisions in their best interest? With the fact that we're so traumatized, how do you treat a whole country?
Well, what I could say, it's events or events like these. What I'm doing here right now, talking about it, bringing out the facts about most of these incidents and getting people involved to come out and speak about it, right? That will help those who are wrong and were involved and will give others a better sense of our history as to where we were and where we are right now. And I think we are in a very good place at this point in time politically and when it comes to our history, because I think around now you find a lot of persons appreciating, right, our history, especially the Gary era, the revolution and everything like that. So I think we just have to continue to be honest with each other, open with each other, and don't be afraid to say what we went through in Grenada.
Well, see, that when you say don't be afraid, it's like a double-edged sword or almost a snake eating itself. That is the prescription, which is very much acceptable. At the same time, we know a person who is afraid most likely will not necessarily just choose to not be afraid. However, with what you just said in terms of having the discussion, being more open about it, those who have faced that fear and have conquered it, or those who are choosing to face that fear.
And I think that's just one step, in the whole
there's a lot
process,
of other steps.
you know?
But that step you just pointed out is a very major step, because again, one of the first things they tell you is if you're an addict, if you can't admit that you're addicted, you're in denial and you won't ever change. Yeah. And we can say it's for lack of a better phrase, we're almost addicted to trauma now, where we behave so casually, so nonchalantly towards trauma that people would say, "Wow, we're so strong and we're so versatile." Like, I mean, we're facing all these traumas, and look at us, we're still pounding ahead, as you say, keep moving. However, at the same time, we can see some of the negative, as they call it, deleterious effects of that trauma based on our behavior. So the conversation, which is a good start, is very welcomed, and it'd be very instructive for, especially the party in power right now, if they could provide a platform where people. It's almost like, do you remember the Rwanda issue, the genocide issue that happened in Rwanda?
Yeah.
Almost like a clearing of the air, where people could come out, whether you are on the positive side or negative side or indifferent side, air your views. Cry if you have to, cuss each other if you have to, condemn, accuse, whatever you have to, but get it all out so that we could really start moving on with the business of Grenada and making it better for everybody.
All right,
my friend.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Take care, brother.
All right. We're going to close in exactly 6 minutes.
Yeah. What I can say, Shalon, is that as a people, we are beginning to be more tolerant, right, to our history, right?
Well, let me say this, though, Devon. I think that there's still a lot to be done. I know that a former New National Party administration did have the Truth and Reconciliation Council.
That's a start.
With the in the South African model of what was done by you could come and you could say what you would have done, and so you not have to worry about any sort of legal ramifications after. So on, you said what you would have done, you apologize, and so. But to give a true, clearer picture, but the vast majority of people who had information never participated in the process.
No, a majority of them.
Now you're hearing, because I realize that we're seeing different people are writing books, different people are doing articles, different people are speaking out and saying, well, on this date, this took place, so I was part of this process and so on. So you're seeing little bits and pieces coming out.
Yeah.
You're also seeing a situation, particularly within, on the political landscape, when you look at the New National Party and its construct, right now, you realize that the New National Party is that tent, that umbrella, where you have the people who would have been members of the PRA, together with people who would have been detainees, together with people who may have been members of the Gary government, everyone within that organization together and able to work together for the benefit of Grenada. And if Project Grenada is anything, it's that.
Definitely.
If Project Grenada, you heard Project Grenada before, if Project Grenada is anything, because it incorporates everybody. When you speak of the social partners and so on, and being able to bring different minds together for the benefit of Grenada, the entire construct of what is taking place right now, I think, is part of the healing process.
Yeah.
But also, I think there's the important element that we keep forgetting, that those who forget their past are doomed to repeat it. And as such, that educational aspect that should be taking place, I believe, honestly believe, that there should be a module within the secondary school system on the Grenada Revolution. There should be a module there that every student going through, or even if you don't want, I believe it should be at the secondary school system, but even if you say you don't want it there, make it one of the elective areas, or maybe you have to do it or whatever at the TAMCC. Our premier tertiary institution should have a course on the Grenada Revolution. But you know what the problem is? And you can't blame the Ministry of Education. You can't blame all the ministers of education and the ministries of education that have been put together since 1983. The problem here is, what is the true story?
Yeah.
Because you would hear bomb blasts and you would hear 20 different stories of what took place. You would hear about what happened with Sean Phillip. You hear 20 different stories of what took place. You would hear March 13th. You hear 20 different stories of what took place, who got killed and why they got killed. And October 19th, you hear so many different stories that it's difficult to put forward one particular line and say, this is what took place.
But we got to keep trying. We got to keep on.
We're going to take what I think is going to be our final call.
Yes. Good morning, afternoon, and welcome. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
Afternoon.
my friend.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
The last caller that spoke, I think people should take what he's saying on board very seriously, because this problem, we cannot deal with it in bits. Yeah? And if I go back to the statement that Mr. Romain made after the bomb went off, as to what the general says, what he meant was get everyone, our leadership, out of harm's way.
Yep.
Yeah, do you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah, we understand. Go right ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so let me get to the next point. Yeah, and and this is a very serious issue, and you cannot be today on radio as someone that was 13, 14 years old at the time saying that he was in a militia. Yes, because that has, I think, Sheldon, you need to explain the ramification of that. You know,
no, the thing is, my brother,
implies that during the revolution, child soldiers were employed.
We did.
And that is not something we should be saying.
No, not that we can't not be saying it.
Yeah.
It's the truth. That's
It
what
is the
happened.
truth, and that's what we had to face.
My brother, you had students
So
in
during the
Anglican
revolution,
high
child
school.
soldiers were employed.
No,
Yes.
not child. Listen me. They
militia.
were militia. They were pioneers. They were army. The militia was basically a unit that comes from within the community, from the villages, and so they were the eyes and ears basically of the revolution, right? And they were made up of 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, right up, right? And they were given the opportunity to learn to use a weapon.
Take my advice, sir. Yes? Take my advice. Yeah? I would rather you say you were the political commissar as a youth, rather than to say
no. I can't lie. I can't be in front of my people and they knowing the truth and lie to them. I'll be a hypocrite.
No, but it's the truth. There were militia. There were militia who were in their early teens.
Yeah, and
they were child soldiers.
They were not child soldiers.
Listen, if you wanna categorize them as child soldiers, it's okay. But that's the past.
You fully understand what I'm saying, you know.
No,
but that's the past. That's not the present. So
You
I
see,
mean, this is what happened. It's
you
part of
telling
history.
me that I'm not fully understand. I'm telling you the reality, the truth of it. Whatever the ramifications is, it's our history. Right? It is our history, and we have to let the young people, especially of our country, know what went on during the time of the revolution. I cannot be a hypocrite. I was part and parcel of it, and I will say it as it is. Sorry if we disagree, but hey, that's just how it is. You know,
all right, my brother.
Well, that understanding these things are part of the healing process, sir.
Yeah,
definitely.
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 Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, my brother. Yeah.
All right.
You know,
because I remember that picture as well. In fact, I remember being a child in Trinidad, and that picture caused a lot of concerns. I remember my grandfather, who at a point in time would travel back and forth between Trinidad and Grenada during the late 1970s, early 1980s, speaking about seeing youngsters with weapons. There's that very famous picture. I don't have a copy of it now. With a young lady from Anglican High School with a Kalashnikov.
Exactly, and she was only 15 years old. She was a Louis from Montmorris.
And she wasn't the only one.
And she was not the only one. So, I mean, the revolution was a popular people's revolution. And you had almost every single strata of this, the nation getting involved. You had the pioneers who were not involved in the military, but they were the younger ones who were, the flowers of the revolution. And then you had the National Youth Organization, you had the Women's Organization, you had the militia, which was basically the secondary arm of the army, the supportive arm of the army. And so the revolution, the structure of it was made up of so many different areas, and so that people could have participated. That is why it was so popular. That is why persons up to this point in time could remember a lot of the good things that went on in the revolution and the bad things that went on.
Some people may say it was a good thing to have young people involved. Some people may say it's a bad thing. But the fact is, we may not like it, we may not want to say it, but the fact is that it happened. You had children who were. Devon, I think we're out of time. And we're so sorry to have to end the discussion here, but we know that these stations have to go off to their various bits and pieces of programming.
And we appreciate
so,
that.
So, folks, we thank you so very much for being with us this morning. Into this afternoon. With Hard Talk. I'm sorry, boy. That discussion deserves a 2-hour program. I think we got to come back to a revolutionary discussion.
Yeah, we can revisit it, one day again when we can have a more, upbeat and everything.
Yeah, one of the messages on the box there. The other aunt who was in Anglican High in the militia, brother in GBSS who was in the militia, and so on. So yes, you did have.
And if you understand the importance of the militia at this point in time, almost every single Grenadian, they were grannies, grandmothers, and grandfathers, 60s and 70-year-old that were partaking in it. They were involvement. So you had a wide strata of the population getting involved. But, as you say, Senator, it was a day that we must look back to. We must understand what went on and the ramifications of it. I am not prepared to sit down and hide no information. I will say it as it is, right? And so it is my duty, and I figure it's my duty to continue to educate the young ones, my children, those who do not understand, who are not there, but must appreciate the importance, right, of what went on during the revolution. So, having said that, I thank everyone for being so patient and so on, listening and attentively. And hey, if you have any comments, any disagreements, and so you can forward it in another program, and I'll be glad to answer it or show some clarification on it. And so, all right, I can only try and do my best. And please do not fault me or hate me for trying to do my best for letting the Grenadian people know part of our history.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talking. Whatever you say, whatever you do it safe and secure. I want to be speaking to and with you and
not about you.
Yes, indeed.
Peace
See you
out.
tomorrow, God's willing, with more Hard Talk. Thank you all very much, and especially thank you to the stations who remained with us for this period of time. My name is Sheldon Scott.
I'm Devon Romain.
And we are out of here.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.